And welcome in to another winning edition of the Arizona Diamondbacks podcast right here on PHNX. I don't know what this is like. This is a new feeling, this happiness that has restored here. Jacob's dancing. I'm having a good time. Jesse's quarantined. This is a great vibe for a Thursday. Welcome into the PHNX D-Back Show. Of course, I am your mayor of this joint, occasionally known as Derek Montilla. This man in the box next to me is your Thunderstick and my vice mayor, the one and only Jesse Friedman. And the Diamondbacks complete their first sweep of the season, the first series sweep of the season, taking today's game by a score of 5-4 over the Reds. It was an impressive game, a very fun game to watch, Jesse. This one was exciting. The Diamondbacks had a lot of the answer backs in them today, and it was really good to see them get contributions, especially from the guys that have been struggling so far this season. It really did feel like yesterday and today, the big difference in these games, in these very close games, was the contributions from those guys that have not been contributing so far.
I mean, if this game had ended 4-1, if the Diamondbacks had just held that lead, it wouldn't have been nearly as interesting or exciting, right?
It's true.
D-backs fans,
it's a fun game.
You gotta appreciate a little bit of drama at the end with the with the Reds tying this game at 4. Corbin Carroll delivering a really big 2-out RBI single. That was against Fernando Cruz. The Diamondbacks' first 2 hitters of that inning got out, and then a couple of walks, and Corbin Carroll delivers that hit. Enormous moment there for the Diamondbacks to take the lead. And then one Paul Sewald,
our Lord and Savior,
in the 9th inning, and he looked like Paul Sewald of old. There were, a couple of location mistakes, but by and large, he was hitting his spots. He looked really, really good out there. A 1-2-3 9th inning, no drama in the 9th inning today, and the Diamondbacks come out with, as you said, their first series sweep of the 2024 season.
Plenty of drama in this game, though. Of course, the Diamondbacks had Slade Cecconi on the mound today. Slade absolutely shoved for the first few innings, right? And that's what he's been doing lately. Slade's 4-seamer topped out at, I have here, 97.6 miles per hour, and he was doing things. He just, unfortunately, Slade has this thing where he seems to kind of run through the starting lineup that first time. Today he got through it the second time, but when he tried to get through it the third time, that's when it seemed like the Reds really had him figured out. And then, I mean, the Reds honestly got on a roll. It wasn't just against Cecconi that the Reds were able to start getting hits, and they kind of singled the Diamondbacks to death there, tying the ball game up at 4 and making this a much more exciting game than than it was appearing to be early on. The Diamondbacks seemed to kind of be rolling in this one. They did get some again offensive contributions from guys all over the place, but Slade was having himself a really good day.
He really did. And I mean, much like Jordan Montgomery, like you look at Slade Cecconi's ERA, you're not necessarily going to be blown away, but his 4 starts, I mean, 3 of them have been really, really good, right? It's really just that one outing against the Padres where he also came out of the gate and looked absolutely dominant.
Yeah.
But, got touched up quite a bit in the 4th and 5th innings. But outside of that, Slade has been really good for the Diamondbacks this season. When you think about all of the guys that they've lost in the starting rotation, Merrill Kelly being out, Eduardo Rodriguez being out, of course, Slade stepped directly into Merrill Kelly's spot. And he's been pretty darn good in that spot. Maybe not quite Merrill Kelly, but pretty close. And 5 1/3 innings, 1 run. There wasn't a ton of swing and miss for Slade today. Only 4 whiffs. It was just kind of a lot of foul balls and a lot of fairly soft contact. He only gave up 3 hits. He was really good for the Diamondbacks, like all of their starting pitchers in this series, right? Zach Gallen was really good on Tuesday. Jordan Montgomery, somehow, some way, even though it wasn't pretty, he came away with 7 innings of 2-run ball yesterday. And then Slade did it again today. Just a really outstanding series from the Diamondbacks starting rotation.
Well, things are happening around here, Jesse. And if you follow other local Arizona sports, you might know exactly what's going on. So I don't know. I think we have to just wrap it up. So I appreciate you guys stopping by.
No,
That's it
we
for
are
today.
coordinating.
No,
we are
it's
coordinating
fine.
on the side over here. I'm doing my day job.
Can I break the news on here? Can I say it?
What just happened? I don't know what you're talking about.
Jesse, the Suns just fired Frank Vogel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's all.
Yeah.
I know
really
this
surprised?
is a Diamondbacks podcast, but I figure that's news that everybody watching this should probably want to know. So make sure
I'll
to
put it in
jump
the
in for the
description.
Suns here very soon. Yeah, put it in the description for the show that we broke the news first on PHNX in regards to that. But Jesse, I think the big thing here today was, again, the offensive contributions from obviously, the guys that have been struggling. Ketel did his thing. Ketel extends his hitting streak to 10 games with that triple, which was his first of the season. But realistically, Corbin Carroll had a huge hit in this game. I mean, Joc Pederson was incredible, and we'll get to him. But Lourdes Gurriel had a big timely hit. Gino had a hit. Like it wasn't major contributions. We're not declaring anybody being back on that based on their performances today. It was just those guys getting on base, those guys getting those hits in those moments really helped this team get to 5-4, right? And that's a big reason why they were able to secure today's victory.
Yeah, I think it's fair that we need to see a little more before we're ready to declare that Gino Suarez is back, or that Lourdes is back, or even that Corbin Carroll is back. Those guys all had good moments in the series. And you mentioned Lourdes coming through with that RBI double today. That was a really big moment for him. So yeah, you need to see more there, but it's a really good sign for the Diamondbacks, just that those guys seem to be at least trending in a positive direction. And you're right, there really were a variety of contributors for the D-backs in this game. Corbin coming through with that big hit, Joc Pederson with 3 hits in this game, including a bunt single and a stolen base. What? And then
he went off.
Yeah, he pretty much did. And then Gino, of course, had a really big day yesterday, but also came through in some spots today. Gino had a sac fly, which drove in a run in this game. So, yeah, you're starting to see the pieces come together offensively, where it doesn't just feel like it's Ketel plus Walker plus
one other guy.
Yeah, one other guy who's sort of hot at that particular time. You're starting to see more contributions from up and down the lineup, and that's something that we expected from the beginning with this Diamondbacks team, that they had a lot of depth, that they had a lot of different ways that they could beat you offensively, and there's still a ways to go on that front, but a positive step here in this series for sure.
There were a couple of things that weren't great. Obviously, we know that the bullpen let that lead slip. Logan Allen was a big part of that, and it's unfortunate. I think that if you want to criticize anything, I think Torrey could have pivoted a bit earlier from Logan, but of course, hindsight's 20/20 when it comes to that. He ends up giving up 4 hits and 3 earned runs. Ryan Thompson, of course, gave up that hit, but for the most part, the good news was Kevin Ginkel came in, gave a solid inning of work with only allowing 1 hit and striking out 1. And then, like you said, Paul Sewald very much looked like the Paul Sewald of old. That makes us all very relaxed. Make sure we get to the amusement park on time and safely, and make sure we all have a good time, because he looked very good today.
It's just occurring to me, this was the first Thompson, Ginkel, Sewald game that we've had in 2024. And that, I mean, how important was that trio for the Diamondbacks in August and September? And also, I guess, really, Ryan Thompson wasn't even part of the team until a good portion of the way through August. But that trio was so big in September. That trio was enormous, of course, in the postseason as well. And this is the first time that we've actually felt the effects of that. And you mentioned Ryan Thompson did give up a hit, came in with 2 outs, trying to get Logan Allen out of that jam in the 7th. Wasn't able to do that, but he did get the next guy. And then Kevin Ginkel, nice easy 8th inning. Paul Sewald, a nice easy 9th inning. That's always been, from the beginning of this season, those 3 guys coming together. And that's the way that you draw up like a close Diamondbacks win. And this is the first time that they've actually been able to use all 3 of those guys at the same time.
Let's take a look at some of our wonderful super chats from you wonderful people. Jimmy Dean says, the D-backs are a motherfucking wagon. Let's go, Jimmy. Brett Johnson says, big Cockamus Jocamus is such a goddamn dog. And you're right, man. Joc Pederson continues to be possibly the best hitter on this team. Ketel is obviously doing his thing, and he's right there as well. But I think that Joc Pederson's at-bats have been very, very good. I said it yesterday that he's just a much more well-rounded hitter than I thought he was going to be. But today, he showed us everything that he could do, right? Including stealing a base. I bet you didn't think you were going to see that. But Joc has a stolen base. Joc's out there hitting home runs, and he was just a vital part of the offense today.
We've seen Torrey put Joc in 3-hole and move Gurriel down a bit the last couple of days. And the early returns there are pretty positive, right? Joc has come in and he's been the D-backs' most consistent hitter the entire season, frankly. I mean, I guess Ketel you could put in that conversation as well. But Joc has a higher OPS than Ketel Marte does at this point at 950. Granted, he's a platoon guy. He's not going to be hitting third against lefties. But, man, it looks, Derek, like the D-backs just totally nailed their designated hitter decision.
Yeah, they really
did. It's still too early to definitively make that determination, but Joc Pederson has been so good. I mean, it's only a month, but he's basically having as good of a year as he ever has in the majors so far. And it looks legitimate. It's not like it's, soft contact, just dinks and dunks here and there. Like that home run that he hit in the first inning was a pretty darn good pitch by Hunter Green. It was a fastball painted at the upper inside corner. Somehow he's able to keep his hands in and drive that out to right field. It was a really, really impressive swing. And that's just the way he's been the entire season, really. He's been exactly what the Diamondbacks were looking for in that DH slot. And the other thing I go back to, over the offseason, we were talking about who the D-backs should have at DH. We were kind of defaulting to, well, you probably want a right-handed hitter. And then Mike Hazen at one point, I think after the Gurriel signing, said, we do want a DH, but we actually might want a left-handed hitter instead. And in retrospect, that totally makes sense to me now. I mean, it feels like if the D-backs had gone with a right-handed hitting DH instead, they might have a few too many right-handed hitters kind of piled up in the middle of the lineup with both Ketel and Corbin generally sitting at the top. So still early, but it really looks like they nailed that decision all the way around.
Joc is hitting 302 with a 415 on-base percentage and a 950 OPS. He has 4 home runs and 8 RBI this season. Not all of this was in one game because that would be some sort of record. But for his performance today, Joc Pederson is, of course, our King Snake. Give it up. 3 for 5, 1 home run, 2 runs scored, and that stolen base. Of course, man. I mean, I couldn't imagine giving it to anybody else with the way that he performed today.
The most impressive thing was the bunt, right? I mean,
yes.
Joc, not exactly.
I went out of my mind for that.
Speed. It's like he was channeling his inner Ellie De La Cruz up there. Like he kept seeing Ellie De La Cruz, like, get on base via walk or whatever, and then wind up at third base like 30 seconds later. And Joc was like, yeah, if you're gonna play your third baseman back, I'm gonna lay down a bunt, I'm gonna get on first base, and then like a minute later, I'm gonna be on second. Because you're not paying any kind of attention to me at first base.
Why would you?
That's just who Joc is. There's a level of competitiveness there. There's just that's just who he is as a player. He's gonna find ways to if you're not paying close attention to him, whether he's a base runner or you're giving him an opportunity to lay down a bunt, he's willing to go through and play that game with you as well. And he showed that today.
Andrew Dang, thank you for your super chat. He says, I'm going to Sunday Detroit series at Chase Field for my birthday. Turning 24 on the 19th. Happy early birthday to you, sir. Orioles would be tough. My Yankees struggle with them. And the Orioles are going to be a tough test. We'll talk about those probable pitchers for that series coming up here shortly. Easton says, thank you, Easton, for your super chat. He says, I think right now Cecconi is greater than Nelson and Henry. I would say I would agree with you so far. I think that, of course, there is the fact that those guys do have a longer track record. I think Ryan Nelson right now might be a little bit above Cecconi, but that's just based on experience and maybe length. I'd like Cecconi to be able to go a little bit longer in these ball games than the 5th inning, but you might not get that out of him. That might be what you're going to get out of him for now. And honestly, if 1 earned run and 5 innings is what he's going to give us, I'll take it from him. And thank you also, Mitch. Mitch said, there was a time I couldn't stand Joc, but he's grown on me. He's become one of my favorite players. Great game from Joc today. Also great to see Corbin come through. He's starting to get going. Yeah, these are all good signs. And yeah, I think Joc's an eccentric person that, of course, at times is going to come off a little weird because he's always doing his own thing. But there is something there's something funny about watching Joc kind of do the celebration that the Diamondbacks have started, but like half-heartedly. You know, other guys are like, yeah, zip it, throw it out. Joc's just kind of like, yep, there's the thing. I did it. You know, like I'm not gonna do all of that, but I'll do it. I'm part of the team. So I appreciate that. A couple other notes from today. Blaze Alexander botched a fairly routine looking double play in the bottom of the 6th and continues to just kind of be a problem out there defensively, which is frustrating to watch. Meanwhile, Kevin Newman has continued to make excellent plays that that make you want to see Kevin Newman out there more than Blaze, despite what Blaze is able to do at the plate. Kevin Newman absolutely deked Stuart Fairchild 1,000% on that play today, where Stuart Fairchild just ran into second, slid in on a fly ball, but and it was impressive. Ketel got in on it. There was a lot of pretending they had the ball and tagging him. Several people tagged him without the ball. I can understand why Fairchild was so confused, but yeah, I mean, there's times like that where you really see Kevin Newman making those heads-up veteran plays that you're not getting out of Blaze.
Yeah, it really does feel at this point like pretty much every time Blaze Alexander starts at shortstop, something like what we saw there, I believe it was in the 6th inning, happens, where it's a pretty routine double play ball, and Blaze's footwork, I think, maybe didn't look exactly the way that you would want it to, and he winds up throwing wide to first base, pulling Christian Walker off the bag. Fortunately, Logan Allen was able to pick him up, and it didn't matter. It didn't lead to any runs scoring, but we saw Blaze have a pretty rough game defensively against the Padres as well. Couple of routine double plays in that game that he wasn't able to turn. So yeah, it's really tough right now. You know, Blaze is a young player who's done a lot of good things offensively for this team, but I have to wonder, Derek, given how much Torey Lovello values defense, that's really what Torey has been built on from the moment he took over this organization. I wonder if we've just about seen the last of Blaze Alexander at shortstop. Maybe we haven't. Maybe Torey's going to continue to run him out there for, you know, about a game every series, if they like what's going on behind the scenes and think he's trending in a positive direction. But the mistakes have been so consistent at this point that I have to wonder if that's at least on the table.
A few people in the chat. Seth Harper in the chat says, do you think Blaze goes down when Domo comes back? I'm liking Newman more at shortstop than Blaze. I like what Newman's able to give you defensively out there. And Blaze, I mean, he's not doing terribly at the plate. He was 0 for 2 today with a walk and a strikeout, but he's still, you know, he's coming back down to earth. He's hitting what is he hitting now? Like 278 with an 845 OPS. And a lot of that is due to a very hot start. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the averages bring him back down. And at that point, you know, without his bat being as hot, you really would question, you know, starting him over Kevin Newman. You would definitely question having him as a backup behind Perdomo over Kevin Newman. So that all remains to be seen, but we're not going to do that right now. We're not doing this. We're going to do happy things. And when I say happy things, we're going to take a look at the count presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, because this is good times. This is happy times. These are the numbers from the Arizona Diamondbacks' first series sweep of the season. They outscore the Reds 15-9. They outhit the Reds 25-21. Runners in scoring position, kind of a push. Diamondbacks had way more opportunities, going 7 for 31 to the Reds 4 for 16. 250 batting average for the Reds to the Diamondbacks 226. Starting pitching ERA here, Jesse, just incredible for the Diamondbacks. You know, you get 6 innings, no runs, 7 innings, 2 runs, and then today 5 1/3 and 1 run out of your starting pitchers. That's going to play. That's going to give you an opportunity to win ball games. That 1.47 ERA for the Diamondbacks to the Reds 3.94, which again is not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. And then the bullpens were both fairly terrible. 5.73 for the Red side, 6.23 for the Diamondbacks. So again, the numbers here, this looks like a 3-game sweep where the Diamondbacks won each game by a very small margin. But, you know, again, when we talk about the numbers adding up, that makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah, I mean, they scored 5 runs today, which again is like a pretty normal number of runs for the winning team to score. They won
So they're a
3
normal
straight
baseball
games.
team again.
Yeah, they won 3 straight games without scoring 17 runs in any of them, which somehow feels like a good sign. Yeah, I mean, the starting pitching is really the reason that they won the series more than anything else. I mean, 15 runs over 3 games is good. But given the way the bullpen struggled at times, I go back to the starting pitching is really the biggest reason that the Diamondbacks were able to win this series.
Agreed.
And that's, again, a testament to the depth of starting pitching that they had entering this season. I mean, for you to be out Merrill Kelly and out Eduardo Rodriguez and still have, you know, Gallen and Montgomery, which is a pretty formidable 1-2 punch, followed by Slade Cecconi, who's been pretty darn good in 3 out of his 4 starts. Brandon Pfaadt has pitched better of late as well. You feel pretty good about him. Ryan Nelson has been better since kind of getting a handle on this cutter. I think we're still kind of waiting to see what that looks like in the long term. But on the whole, you somehow still have a group of 5 starting pitchers that it's not, you know, it's not what it would be if Erod and Merrill Kelly were in there for sure. It's not a top 5 rotation as we felt the Diamondbacks might have entering the season, but it's still a pretty formidable group. Like the D-backs can win series with their starting pitching, even though they're losing or they're currently out 2 of their best starters. And that's what starting pitching depth does for you. It's so big. And going back to that comment that was made earlier, I do think, yeah, like Slade Cecconi has pitched better than any of the other than all the other young starters, with I guess the possible exception of Brandon Pfaadt. He's been better than Nelson. He's certainly been better than Tommy Henry. So you have to be pretty impressed with what Cecconi has managed to do. And for right now, Derek, it looks like a really good thing that the D-backs didn't move Cecconi to the bullpen at the beginning of the season as they were thinking about doing, because he's played a pretty big role for them here over the last few weeks.
Bees is back, so we got to get the bee catcher back out here to get rid of Bees. No, happy to have you, Bees. But Nick Picoro, speaking of which, did tweet out today, and Jesse, forgive me if you tweeted this out, and I'm just ruining this. But there was good news on Erod and his MRI yesterday. It showed healing, and he appears close to beginning a throwing program. So this team, again, getting pieces back. Paul Sewald already makes you feel good. It's like having your favorite blanket back. But the more pieces that get back, the more Voltron can get its arms and its legs put back together and become a complete robot, the more dangerous this team is going to be. But it's very encouraging, not only knowing those pieces are getting close to returning, but to also see the way that the guys that are here that have been struggling, once again, not to harp on this too much, but the way those guys are performing, we really need those guys to be the key here. It's not just the returning players that are injured. It's the entirety of this team getting rolling again. By the way, I did see a comment there from PDog006, Jacob. If you wouldn't mind scrolling back a little bit. PDog had a great question. He wanted to know, it's more than that. He says, does Torey Lovullo mind having a second coaching job? Suns need a stud. This is an awkward day, Jesse, because of all days, I chose to wear my "In Torey We Trust" shirt on a day where another Valley team is now losing their coach.
The Suns have no idea how to hire. I mean, this is 8 in the last 10 or 11 years.
I just want to once again put some respect on Torey Lovullo's name. By the way, let's just remember, just because things weren't great in April, let's stop calling for this man's job, because when he's gone, you'll be sorry. That's all I'm saying. You will be sorry. But anyway.
There is something to be said for the continuity that the D-backs have had in that regard, right? I mean, having Torey Lovullo as the manager of this baseball team going all the way back to 2017. This is now his 8th season on the job. He's the longest tenured manager in franchise history. He's the winningest manager in franchise history. This is something that
second
even
longest tenured coach in the Valley behind Bobby Hurley, by the way.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, and this is something that the D-backs have gone through a decent their share of managers over their franchise's history as well. It's not just I guess maybe not quite to the degree that the Suns have gone through different head coaches. It does kind of feel like it's a new one just about every year. But yeah, I mean the D-backs had they had Chip Hale for just a couple of seasons. They had Kirk Gibson. So yeah, none of those stretches were all that long. Torey Lovullo really is kind of in his own category here with the Diamondbacks, and yeah, it doesn't seem like his tenure is going to end anytime soon.
Welcome to the Valley, JJ Redick or Ty Lue. We'll take either one of you, I guess. I don't know.
JJ Redick would be pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. Anyway, we do thank you guys, whether you're a Suns fan or a Diamondbacks fan, for being here right now on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. We'll take all of you here. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do so. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss when emergency podcast about your coach being fired go live, and you don't want to miss out on that. Of course, also drop us a like. Gabby loves when you do that. Even when he's not playing, Gabby still stops by to tell you to drop a like, so we appreciate him. Also, if you're listening on the audio podcasting side, make sure you subscribe on your favorite audio podcasting app. Leave us a review. We always appreciate that. We love that feedback. Those 5-star reviews are huge for us. Of course, if you haven't signed up for the BetMGM Sportsbook app, you should do so now. It is a great time as a baseball fan to do so. You can do so with our code of PHNX. When you do, and you deposit at least $10 into your BetMGM Sportsbook account, place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your bet loses. If the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Why is now a great time to do so? Because of their Grand Slam Jackpot promotion, which you can get in on every weekend through the Major League Baseball season. All you got to do is place a $10 or more wager on any player to hit a home run every single weekend. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If the player hits a grand slam on that day, you can win $50,000. It's a daily prize or your share of $50,000 with every other winning bettor. So make sure to get down on the BetMGM Sportsbook app now. Use that bonus code of PHNX. Place your first sportsbook wager through the Sportsbook mobile app for at least $10. You will receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Bonus bets expire in 7 days. One new customer offer only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, North Carolina, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. We tried. We'll get it. We'll get it remotely one of these days, and then we're gonna drop the confetti and have the big celebration. But anyway, every day can be a celebration for you if you stop by Circle K, because you can buy yourself snacks there. And what better way is there to celebrate yourself sometimes than with some Circle K snacks? They have an incredible selection. And like I told you before, do not sleep on the Circle K branded snacks. They are fire. We have them here in the office, and it's all I'll eat now. I refuse to eat anything else. But if you do join their Inner Circle program for free right now by downloading the Circle K app today, you can get all sorts of discounts on their snacks. And you can also save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups of gas, which is very expensive these days. So make sure to save as much money as you can. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. You'll also save 3 cents off per gallon every day after that. Or if you're a premium member, you'll save 5 cents off per gallon every day after that. So make sure to stop by Circle K right now and get yourself something to drink. I know you're thirsty. Jesse, before we move on from this game, of course, we know Damon lies. That's why he's not here today. Big fat liar. And because he lied to us last night. He was like, oh, I'm your producer. I don't know why you guys would ask me why I'm not your producer. And then who do we have over here? It's Jacob.
The better one.
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. But of course, I don't lie. And we know that. And of course, the numbers, they also don't lie. So Jesse, what do you have for today's game?
Yeah, I have a couple of them. The first number is the number 5, which is what we have here on the screen. 5 represents the number of hard hit balls by Diamondbacks hitters today, Derek, which is Actually, not very many at all.
No.
But that's that's sort of how it works
No.
sometimes. We've talked in the last few days about how sometimes you can score a decent amount of runs even if you don't hit the ball all that hard that many times. There were a few exit velos like right at 94 miles an hour I noticed, which technically don't qualify as hard hit balls, but they would have been if they were 95 plus. So 95 is kind of an arbitrary number. So that number 5, clearly, given that the D-backs still scored 5 runs and had 17 base runners in this game, it doesn't necessarily mean everything. But another number that I have, Derek, is the number 084, decimal point 084, which is the OPS against Slade Cecconi this season, the first time through the lineup.
Wow.
Which is wild.
Okay.
That is
So-
opposing hitters, Derek, have gone 1 for 35 with a walk the first time through against Slade Cecconi this season. Trend, of course, continued today. Slade did not give up a hit in the first 3 innings of this game. He did allow a walk, although that runner was caught trying to steal second base. It was Will Benson who tried to steal second, and Tucker Barnhart threw him out. So Slade still faced the minimum. And 084, Derek. That's a pretty decent OPS for that.
What do we
Is
do
that
with
good?
that?
Time through.
What do we do with that? Like, do we? I mean, is Slade on the verge of truly putting it together based on that information, in your opinion, or does that mean he might just be kind of a guy that's only going to be good one time through the rotation? What do you feel like that indicates?
I mean, I think what it indicates to me more than anything is that if you put Slade in the bullpen, you might really have something.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm alluding to, I guess, without really saying it, is like, do we start looking once Slade is no longer part of the starting rotation, do we keep him stretched out as a starting pitcher and try to build on that? Or do you just start looking at one of the nastiest relievers that can go out there and not only give you an inning, but give you the long relief that sometimes this team is in need of at times, that they're not necessarily getting consistently out of Bryce Jarvis and Logan Allen? And that's not to throw any dirt on Bryce Jarvis. He's been pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think there will probably come a time this season. I guess this would involve getting Merrill Kelly and Eduardo Rodriguez back from injury, which you hope is the case by, maybe sometime in July. At that point, the D-backs would probably have the freedom to move Slade Cecconi out of the starting role. And you have to feel like they would take that opportunity. I don't think they're going to send Slade back down to Reno.
No,
I think you have to put Slade Cecconi in the bullpen and see if you can turn him into a real weapon, which is, from what we've seen this season, the way that he's just carved through hitters early in these games. There's a pretty strong case to be made there that Slade could be a very, very good relief pitcher. And that's something that the Diamondbacks very sorely need, right? Right now, they need the starting pitcher more because their starting pitching depth is obviously, they're sort of on the fringes of that right now, given the starters that they've lost to injury. But once you no longer need Slade in that role, he could be pretty darn good in the bullpen. And, this number certainly bears that out.
Well, the Diamondbacks get no rest here. They will immediately head to Baltimore for a series with the Orioles that starts tomorrow. Of course, we will be bringing you another post-game show tomorrow after that game. But in the meanwhile, we wanted to take a look at the rest of Major League Baseball, including those Baltimore Orioles and where they fall on our power rankings for this week. Let's take a look at that listing. Of course, we got Carlos Correa and those Twins showing up on this board after the last few weeks that they've had. But of course, we have the Dodgers moving up to number 1. They were number 2 last week. We have the Dodgers at number 1. Phillies moving up 1 spot from number 3 to number 2. Braves moving down 2 spots to number 3. And then everything there in the middle still right where it's been at. 4 is Yankees that stay the same. 5 Orioles stay the same. Guardians 6 stay the same. Royals 7, they're still in the same spot. We have our 2 new teams adding to the power rankings this week, which are the Texas Rangers at 8 and the Twins at 9. And then the Brewers fall down 2 spots from 8 to 10th. And that rounds out our list. Jesse, plus 74 run differential for the Dodgers, going 6-0 this week. Hard to deny them being in the number one spot.
Yeah, the Dodgers at this point have just played so well the last couple of weeks that really no choice there but to put them in the number one spot. The Braves have slipped a little bit. They're now a few games behind the Phillies in the NL East, which is something I wasn't sure we would ever see this season. It felt like the Braves might just have a commanding lead in the NL East the entire way through, but things have flipped there. The Phillies just believe won a series over the Braves, might have swept that series. I have to go back and double check. But the Phillies are playing really good baseball right now. As we've said the last couple of weeks, their starting pitching has been the best in baseball, and we've seen what that offense can do. They did just lose Trey Turner. He's expected to be out for about 6 weeks. So that's a big loss for the Phillies, something to watch here in the coming weeks. But that's a really good baseball team that, in my mind, pretty easy putting them at number 2. And you mentioned the Minnesota Twins earlier, Derek, who have won 14 of their last 16 baseball games. They're up to 21-15 on the season. Granted, they play in the AL Central, and they did win a number of those games against the White Sox and the Angels. But anytime you win 14 out of 16 games, it's pretty dang impressive.
Ronald Acuna Jr. really struggling for the Braves. I mean, not struggling. He's still a damn good baseball player, but he only has a 720 OPS with a 107 OPS plus. He has a 261 batting average, 2 home runs this season, and 8 RBI. I mean, again, he's still productive. He's still a deadly hitter at all times, just not the consistency that we've seen out of him for the last few seasons. And, you know, I mean, the Braves, they have a lot of weapons, but they're kind of going through a little bit of what the Diamondbacks are going through, where it's kind of as a whole, their team isn't really producing as well as you expect them to.
Yeah, and I mean they're still 22-12, which is
I know
pretty crazy that the Braves can be 22-12 when Ronald Acuna Jr. has basically been a league average hitter up to this point.
It's just he's just one of the many weapons that they have, you know what I mean? But yeah, everybody else there in the middle kind of still stacked in that same order. Just a lot of good teams in the AL East. The Yankees and the Orioles were both 5-1 this past week, with a plus 54 and plus 53 run differential respectively. Like, these teams are very good. Luckily, they have to play each other a lot, but still not as much as we used to back in the day. But Guardians still hanging around at 24-13, and then the Royals there still at 22-16. So, you know, these teams are still winning. They're not having the week that the Dodgers have had, but they're able to keep their leads in their divisions.
One note on the Texas Rangers real quick, who are another team that jumped into our top 10 here after not being in it for the last while.
Yes.
Corey Seager has not really hit up to this point in the season. You mentioned Ronald Acuna Jr. not getting off to a particularly good start. Corey Seager is in that exact same boat. So far, at least entering today, Seager had a 613 OPS, a 76 OPS plus. Not really sure what's going on there, if there's maybe an injury at play, because that is certainly not the Corey Seager that the Diamondbacks saw in the World Series, Derek.
No,
that man was pretty good.
No, he was very good. And of course, the world right now has Paul Skenes fever, Jesse, with the Pittsburgh Pirates, who's going to be making his debut. I love everything the Pirates have done with hyping him up. I don't think I've ever seen, I mean, rarely in baseball, like Bryce, Steven Strasburg, a lot of Nationals, but like rarely do I remember seeing like as much hype around a pitcher debuting as what we're seeing from the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I too have Paul Skenes fever, Derek. I will.
That's why you're quarantined.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I have. Skenes. I mean, the Pirates have taken an interesting approach here, and he hasn't really pitched deep into games at all in AAA. He's made 7 starts, and he's only thrown 27 1/3 innings, which is an average of under 4 innings per. So they've slow played him. I imagine even once he's with the Pirates major league team, they're still probably going to be really careful with his usage. Of course, we've seen so many injuries, especially among hard throwers already this season. And I'm sure the Pirates want to do everything they can to get out in front of that and try to prevent that. But
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, Skenes this year in those 27 and a third innings, Derek, he had a 0.99 ERA in AAA. He had 45 strikeouts to 8 walks, a 0.92 WHIP. Just unreal. Just
Tops
unreal
out at
stuff.
triple digits regularly, right?
Yeah. Touches triple digits regularly, and maybe even more notably, throws a splitter that's like 95 miles an hour, which is
That's
absurd.
nasty. That's nasty.
Yeah. So I mean, the guy's thrown 34 career minor league innings. Like he hardly pitched with the Pirates organization last year. He's only thrown 27 and a third this year, but he was so good. He was so good in college, so good at Louisiana State, and of course was taken first overall less than a year ago. Was widely expected to be among those top few picks, and I'm really excited to watch him pitch. I mean, this feels like the Steven Strasburg debut. I remember that being a big event when it happened. Like when you have a really high draft pick where the hype was always there and the player follows through on that hype in the minors and they're making their big league debut. It's a sight to behold for all of baseball, really.
Well, we want to thank all of you that are diehards already for being a diehard. If you are not a diehard yet, we implore you to check out our diehard membership. It pays for itself. Get yourself a t-shirt from the PHNX locker. Get yourself discounts from the PHNX locker. That first t-shirt is on us, along with your brand new membership kit. You get access to all of our content, including Jesse's written pieces. You get access to our Discord lounge with exclusive diehard content. So much more, including our happy hours, our little game show that we call what I forget. What is the I'm lost here on
your game show. I believe is called Squeeze Play.
Thank you. It's been a long time since we've done that one, so we need to bring that one back. But we have all sorts of fun around here, so make sure to sign up today. You also get discounts with our partners and discounts on our events, like our upcoming takeover event of the Chase Field pool party. Anyone? Make sure to join us for that. We also have another takeover later this year. So, of course, get discounts on all of that stuff. Join us over here. Become part of the diehard family. Also, check out Desert Financial Credit Union, which for more than 84 years has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union. They are dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make your life better. They made my life better. They got me started on owning a home. They can hopefully get you started as well. Join a credit union that is committed to giving back to the community and sharing success with its members. When you open a free checking account online right now, you can get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. Speaking of keeping your money, saving your money, and going to sporting events, you can do all of that with Game Time. You can save on last-minute ticket deals. You can save up to 60% off by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedies, and more. You also have the ability to save even more if you get that app and you keep an eye on the event that you're interested in. There are exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. You also can see what your view is going to be. It's a very aesthetically pleasing app. They also have a lowest price guarantee. If they do not get you the lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We got our probable pitchers for this upcoming series in Baltimore. And this, speaking of young players debuting, or the Orioles are never short of young players making their debut. The Jackson Holiday thing didn't go so great, but he'll be back. And I'm sure he'll be even better when he returns. For now, here are the starting pitchers the Arizona Diamondbacks will be sending out there and who they have to deal with. We have Fott versus Irvin in Game 1, Nelson versus Means in Game 2, and then the milkman, Zach Gallen, going in Game 3 against Kramer. And I say that because Zach Gallen is, in fact, the milkman. Cowser.
Yeah, I mean, the Diamondbacks, Derek, avoid both Corbin Burns and Kyle Bradish.
We did it.
Just returned from injury in this series. But I mean, if we look at the graphic one more time, like those are still some pretty good ERAs on the Orioles side. Cole Irvin at 2.86 ERA coming into that game on Friday. Irvin has not allowed a run in his last 3 outings. Against the Reds, 6 1/3, no runs. Against Oakland, 7 innings scoreless. Against the Royals, 6 2/3 scoreless. Those are his last 3 starts. John Means just returned from injury. He was really, really good in his first game back. I think he might have made, I think there's maybe 2 starts in there. But as you see, he has not allowed a run yet. And then Dean Kramer, as well, is on a nice little run here for Baltimore with a 3.57 ERA. And he, in his last 4 starts, has a 2.63 ERA. So this is it's a pretty formidable group. I mean, we kind of looked at the Orioles before they made the Corbin Burns trade, and we're like, this rotation is kind of mediocre, even though the offense is going to be so spectacular. Not only has the offense been spectacular for the Orioles, with basically every young hitter you can imagine just absolutely knocking the cover off the ball. Colton Cowser, Jordan Westberg, Adley Rutschman, of course, doing his thing. Gunnar Henderson having an outstanding sophomore season so far. The lineup is potent, and even the 3-5 starters, Derek, have also been really good lately. So the Orioles are one of the best teams in the league. They're 24-12. They have one of the top few records in baseball as of right now. It's going to be a tough series, a big test for the Diamondbacks coming up this weekend.
It's gross how good their team truly is and how young their team is. But we still got to the World Series first, and I'll just throw that out there. Also, I can't help but think of how good this series sweep of the Reds is for the Diamondbacks. I don't feel this is a situation where the Diamondbacks are going to get too ahead of themselves because they just beat the Reds. I think they understand that the Reds were struggling, and I think they understand that the Orioles are a very different animal than what they just faced in the Reds. However, it's just encouraging for them to finally start putting things together, even in games like in Game 2 that you could argue they didn't even deserve to win. They were able to find a way to win. Jordan Montgomery found a way to give the Diamondbacks what he gave them yesterday, even without striking out very many batters. But he just found a way after giving up 7 hits early to settle in and give them some length. This team has done that over the last few days. I think it's just a reminder that they can win baseball games in a myriad of ways, and they can actually be a competitive team. I think that when you struggle the way that they have struggled so far this season, you do start to doubt whether you can actually, win certain games, certain matchups. And once that doubt creeps in, it can truly start impacting your performance.
Yeah, the Reds are a better team than the Rockies, right? I think that's pretty clear. The Reds are a decent team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they turn things around and are in the mix come the end of the season as they were last year. Especially just getting Matt McLean back from injury would be really, 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 really helpful for them. But yeah, at this point, the Diamondbacks have won 4 series this season. This was their 4th. And all of those have come against struggling baseball teams. This Reds team, the Cardinals, and then 2 series wins against the Colorado Rockies. For the season, the Diamondbacks, Derek, are 5-13 against teams that are above 500 and 13-7 against everyone else. So they've really done pretty much all of their damage this season against subpar baseball teams. This weekend against the Orioles is an opportunity to show that the Diamondbacks can hang with the better teams in the league, something they really haven't proven up to this point.
The Diamondbacks have only been swept by the Braves. And you and I, as we were leaving the building last night, talked about how wonky that series with the Braves was.
Yeah.
And that really was where it felt like the wheels fell off for the Diamondbacks. Like, that was the first series that didn't make any sense. That's the first series where I believe they had a lead in almost every single game. They had the potential to win every single game, and they blew the lead in all 3, and they get swept by the Braves. But it was just somehow in that series, it was like still encouraging because you knew the Braves were going to be a tough time. You knew the Diamondbacks or a tough team. You knew the Diamondbacks were missing some pieces. But when they were able to hang with the Braves or even go up as much as they did in one of those games, I think they were up 8-1 or maybe even 8-0 or whatever. But the Diamondbacks were it's like everything bad happened to them in that series, and then everything seemed to kind of carry over for a while, right? This series against the Reds, this sweep feels like they finally shed a lot of that poor play, and they still had some today. We talked about Blaze Alexander. There were a couple of other mistakes made, but it wasn't as egregious as some of the mistakes the Reds made in the series. And ultimately, with these games being as close as they were, those mistakes were what cost the Reds potentially in more than one of these games. So it's just nice for the Diamondbacks to be playing once again, like we talked about yesterday, that mistake-free baseball. Not mistake-free, but less. Not as many mistakes in their game, and playing their brand of baseball a little bit more.
Yeah, that Braves series really is that really was something, wasn't it? D-backs had
screwed everything up.
they did. Yeah, I think the Sunday, I don't know if they had a lead in the Sunday game, but it was tied late. I think Blaze Alexander made some sort of a defensive miscue that gave the Braves the lead, and then
I don't want to
D-backs wound up going to Miguel Castro, and things didn't go well. The first couple games were more brutal than that by far. But yeah, the D-backs they've at least shown signs of kind of hanging with the better teams, and we saw them play the Yankees at home during that first week of the season, and they emphatically won Zach Gallen's start in that game. I think that was a 7-0 win for them.
It was,
but they lost the other game, and then the series finale was that extra inning match against the Yankees that was involved all sorts of chaos, including Scott McGuff.
Scott McGuff DH appearance.
Yeah, including Scott McGuff being just utterly disrespected by the home plate umpire in that situation. Surely he would have gotten on base had that missed call not happened. But yeah, they've been able to hang around against some of those better teams. They didn't hang around so much against the Dodgers last week, though.
That's fair.
So this is going to be big for the Diamondbacks to prove, like, we're not just here picking on the teams that are scuffling and having our way with them. We're actually like going to come out and be one of the better teams in this league the rest of the way. And you're going to have to at least hold your own against teams like the Baltimore Orioles in order to do that.
Well, we will see you after game one of that series with the Baltimore Orioles. Make sure to join us back here for another post-game show, and then we'll have your Saturday episode. Of course, your regular Saturday episode of the show that we always do, right? No, we'll be doing our mailbag this Saturday. Of course, if you have any more questions, maybe get them to us very quickly. We might be recording that very soon, but make sure you consume all of that content. And we appreciate you guys, of course, for stopping by. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Cap_Caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, Father Overlord Jacob. You're gonna play the song again?
Well, we're just playing the music again. All right.
You absolutely are my favorite producer. You can get him at Jacob_Franklin4 because once again, he's the fourth best Jacob Franklin in known existence.
Those other four are pretty damn good then.
He might be moving up the charts. We might have to get his Twitter handle changed to Jacob_Franklin3. Top 3 Jacob Franklin, at least in my opinion. But anyway, our show, as you know, is at PHNX_D-backs. And of course, all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for stopping by. We appreciate your time. We'll see you tomorrow after the Baltimore Orioles take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. And you guys have yourself a wonderful night. We appreciate you again. We appreciate your time. We'll see you then. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it is so much more fun when you have a manager you can count on.
We all silly like the mayor.